up until this point, where he's at in his career, trade him. Get what you can for him. It'll be a lot. Is it going to be 3 firsts? No. Is it going to be 2? Maybe, but you're at least going to get 1, you're going to get a 2, and you're going to get whatever else. But I just don't understand this idea of like, what are you trying to accomplish here? And it goes back to the Russell Wilson conversation. Are you really just trying to win 8 or 9 games and scrape into the playoffs so you can lose in the first?
Here we go again, because Jason Lloyd simply cannot stop creating drama. And at this point, it's starting to feel intentional. What used to be analysis has turned into a non-stop controversy cycle, and now his latest target is Myles Garrett, the face of the Cleveland Browns defense and one of the most dominant players in football today. Yes, that Myles Garrett, the same Myles Garrett, who just delivered one of the most explosive, dominant, and statistically historic seasons of his entire career. The same Myles Garrett offense's game plan around every single week. And yet somehow, Jason Lloyd decided this was the guy who needed to be moved, questioned, and publicly doubted. Here's what actually happened. Lloyd came out and openly suggested that the Browns should trade Myles Garrett, even after a season that had him in Defensive Player of the Year conversations. His logic? That Cleveland could flip Garrett for draft picks and magically find better players at his position and others. Read that again because it sounds just as wild the second time. Better players than Myles Garrett. At defensive end, after a historic season. That isn't bold analysis, that's fantasy football brain rot. This is where things stop being thought-provoking and start feeling reckless. Because once you strip away the shock value, there's no real football logic holding this take together. Garrett isn't just productive, he's game-wrecking. He commands double teams, frees up the rest of the defense, and changes offensive play calling before the ball is even snapped. And yet Lloyd is pushing a narrative that somehow the Browns would be smarter moving on from the one player every contender dreams of having. At this point, it feels less like critique and more like a personal campaign. And let's not forget, this isn't an isolated moment. This is the same Jason Lloyd who recently suggested that Shedeur Sanders shouldn't even be on the Browns roster. A young quarterback prospect with upside confidence and real arm talent suddenly written off like he's disposable. Now Lloyd has moved from questioning a developing quarterback to going after a certified superstar. That's not coincidence, that's a pattern. It gets even more ridiculous when Lloyd doubles down and claims that Myles Garrett isn't a big game player. That take alone deserves its own reality check. Garrett has delivered clutch moments year after year. Late sacks, forced fumbles, game-altering pressures. He doesn't disappear when the lights come on. He creates the chaos. Suggesting that Garrett would somehow fail the Browns in the playoffs ignores years of tape, numbers, and impact.
Back to the Russell Wilson conversation. Are you really just trying to win 8 or 9 games and scrape into the playoffs so you can lose in the first round? Okay, I guess you can do that, but I don't know how that's furthering this franchise into a healthier spot.
It also ignores the reality that football is a team sport, not a one-man show. Defensive stars don't control play calling, quarterback decisions, or offensive collapses. So now we have to pause and ask the uncomfortable but necessary question. What exactly is driving these takes? Is this about football, or is this about attention? Because every time Lloyd drops a hotter, louder, more aggressive opinion, his name trends again. That's not analysis. That's engagement farming. And here's where things need to be handled carefully and fairly. No one is throwing accusations recklessly. But when a journalist repeatedly targets high-profile black players on the same roster while dismissing their value, it raises eyebrows. Especially when the criticism feels disproportionate to performance. Pointing this out isn't an attack, it's accountability. Media voices shape narratives, influence fans, and even impact front office perception. That power comes with responsibility. If Lloyd believes these things, he needs to back them up with real football logic, not shock statements designed to stir chaos. Because right now, the only thing being exposed isn't Myles Garrett's supposed flaws. It's the growing disconnect between outrageous commentary and on-field reality. At some point, Browns fans deserve analysis rooted in facts, not drama. And until that happens, the noise will keep getting louder and the credibility will keep taking hits. The evidence is stacking up fast, and now even casual fans are starting to notice. Myles Garrett isn't just another star on the roster. He's a rare gem, the kind of player franchises spend decades searching for. He's a cornerstone, a generational pass rusher, and the heartbeat of the Cleveland Browns defense. Players like this don't grow on trees, and organizations don't just move on from them without detonating the locker room. Yet somehow, Jason Lloyd keeps making it louder and clearer that he wants Garrett gone. Not restructured, not extended, not built around, gone. That alone forces the obvious question everyone is asking now. Why Garrett? Why this player? Because when you zoom out, this clearly isn't about one bad take or one hot opinion meant to stir debate. This is about a pattern that keeps repeating itself. A pattern where Lloyd relentlessly targets high-profile Black Browns players while giving others the benefit of patience, optimism, and praise. People are calling it out not because it's trendy, but because it's becoming impossible to ignore. Lloyd keeps leaning into controversy because controversy brings clicks. Clicks bring attention, and attention keeps his name circulating. But there's a cost to that strategy, and it's credibility. When every bold opinion starts feeling one-sided, people stop listening for insight and start listening for motive. That's where Lloyd is losing the room. Let's not forget, this same energy has been aimed at Shedeur Sanders as well. A young quarterback prospect who hasn't even been given a full opportunity to prove himself, already dismissed and undermined publicly. Meanwhile, Lloyd had no issue hyping up Dillon Gabriel, praising his fit, his potential, and his upside for the Browns. That contrast is loud. When one player gets patience and optimism while another gets skepticism and resistance, fans notice. Media members notice.
Gabriel will become the first quarterback to make his initial NFL start in one of the international games. Jason Lloyd with his thoughts on Dillon Gabriel.
I actually think Dillon is going to be competent. I don't think he's going to be a star. I don't think he's not throwing for 300 yards or anything like that. But I do think he's going to.
The locker room notices. Now let's bring this conversation back to football, because that's where Lloyd's argument completely collapses. The 2024-2025 season was not smooth sailing for the Cleveland Browns. The team struggled, injuries piled up, morale dipped, and organizational instability took over. There were coaching changes, including the firing of Kevin Stefanski, and chaos seemed to hover over the franchise week after week. And through all of that noise, all of that instability, one player showed up every single Sunday and wrecked game plans anyway: Myles Garrett. While everything around him was shaky, Garrett was dominant. He didn't disappear. He didn't coast. He didn't fold under pressure. He led the entire NFL in sacks that season. Let that sink in for a second. Most sacks in the league. On a team fighting through dysfunction, that alone should silence any conversation about his value. And then there's the game that made jaws drop across the league. 7 sacks in one game. That isn't just impressive, that's historic. That's the kind of performance that gets replayed for decades and used in highlight reels to explain what dominance looks like. For context, 3 sacks in a game is considered outstanding. 2 sacks is a banner day for elite pass rushers. Some great defenders never even sniff 4 in a career game. 7 sacks is not normal. It's not lucky. It's not scheme-driven. It's pure, overwhelming talent. This is what makes Lloyd's continued criticism so baffling. When the numbers scream greatness, when the film confirms it, and when opposing offenses fear one player above all else, trying to downplay that impact feels forced. You can debate contracts. You can debate roster construction. But pretending Myles Garrett is replaceable crosses the line from analysis into distortion. And that's why more people are speaking up now. Not to attack, not to accuse recklessly, but to demand fairness. Because when coverage starts feeling selective, fans lose trust. At the end of the day, football tells the truth. And right now, the truth is simple. Myles Garrett isn't the problem. He's the proof that greatness still exists in Cleveland. That's not just great, that's legendary, and it deserves to be broken down properly. So let's dive deeper into Myles Garrett's 2024-2025 season. Because numbers don't lie, no matter how hard certain journalists try to twist the narrative. Garrett didn't just have a good year, he had a career-defining season. Across the board, his stats hit new highs, and that matters because this isn't a young player still figuring things out. This is a veteran in his prime, somehow still getting better. He finished the season leading the entire NFL in sacks, pressures, and quarterback hits. That's the holy trinity for edge rushers. You can't fake that level of production. You can't scheme your way into that kind of dominance. That's pure talent mixed with relentless effort. Consistency is what separates stars from legends, and Garrett delivered that every single week. He recorded at least 1 sack in 12 of 17 games, which means opposing quarterbacks had to deal with him constantly. There was no stretch where he disappeared. No cold streak. No quiet Sundays. And here's what stat watchers miss. His pressure rate was off the charts. Even when he didn't get home for a sack, he was collapsing pockets, forcing rushed throws, and completely wrecking timing. Quarterbacks were making mistakes because Garrett was there, not because they suddenly forgot how to play. That impact goes way beyond box scores. And let's kill another lazy narrative right now. Garrett is not a one-dimensional pass rusher. He was elite against the run. He set the edge with discipline, fought through blocks, and made tackles in the backfield like a linebacker. That matters because elite defenses need balance, not specialists. This is why Pro Football Focus ranked him as the top edge defender in the entire league, and it wasn't even a debate. Not top 3. Not top 5. Number 1. These aren't just nice stats. These are MVP caliber numbers from a defensive player. The kind of production that puts you in conversations reserved for the very best to ever do it. And yet somehow, Jason Lloyd is pushing the idea that the Browns should trade him away. That's the part that leaves fans shaking their heads. Make it make sense. Garrett wasn't just good on defense this season, he was the defense. He carried units, covered mistakes, and gave the Browns a chance in games they had no business being competitive in. Now let's address the uncomfortable part carefully and honestly. Garrett has done everything right off the field. No scandals, no distractions. He's been a professional leader in the locker room and a steady voice in the building. Teammates respect him. Coaches trust him. Fans rally behind him. He represents the Browns with class and accountability. And yet instead of celebrating that, certain media voices continue to nitpick, downplay, and question his value. When you look around the league, the contrast becomes noticeable. When Aaron Donald had dominant seasons, the media rightly crowned him as one of the greatest defensive players ever. When TJ Watt posts huge sack totals, he's universally praised as a defensive terror. But when Myles Garrett puts together a historic season, the conversation suddenly shifts to whether Cleveland should move on from him. That disconnect is what fans are reacting to. Pointing that out isn't about attacking anyone, it's about asking for consistency and fairness in how greatness is covered. And here's the reality that can't be argued away. The Cleveland Browns know exactly what they have. The coaching staff knows, the front office knows, the locker room knows, and the fans absolutely know. Myles Garrett is a generational talent firmly in his prime, performing at an MVP level and anchoring the most important side of the ball. What all of this really does is shine a bright light back on Jason Lloyd himself, and not in a good way. The ongoing pattern exposes questionable motives that can no longer be brushed off as coincidence or just opinion. Whether it's attention chasing, selective criticism, or something deeper tied to unfair bias, the trend is undeniable, and it's becoming unacceptable in modern sports coverage. Meanwhile, Myles Garrett will keep doing exactly what he's always done. He will remain a Cleveland Browns cornerstone. He will continue terrorizing opposing quarterbacks. He will keep breaking records, stacking accolades, and building a resume that screams Hall of Fame. None of that changes just because one media voice keeps shouting into the void. Garrett's production doesn't fluctuate based on opinion columns. His impact isn't erased by speculation. The film, the numbers, and the respect he commands across the league speak louder than any narrative ever could. On the other side of that coin, Lloyd appears stuck in a cycle that's hurting his own credibility. Each new controversial take chips away at trust. Each one-sided argument makes fans question intent. And once that trust is gone, it's nearly impossible to win back. This isn't about silencing criticism. Players should be evaluated. Teams should be questioned. That's part of sports. But when criticism consistently leans in one direction and ignores context, performance, and facts, it stops being journalism and starts feeling like agenda. The sports media world needs more integrity and less outrage for clicks behavior. Fans are smarter than they're given credit for. They see patterns, they read between the lines, and they remember who spoke with fairness and who chased controversy. Outlets also have responsibility here. Writers aren't just individual voices, they represent brands. When narratives repeatedly feel disconnected from reality, accountability matters. Fair analysis should never feel personal, selective, or dismissive of excellence. Calling this out isn't about canceling anyone. It's about demanding higher standards. When athletes perform at elite levels, they deserve coverage that reflects reality, not suspicion or undermining. Now, this is where the conversation opens up to you. What do you think about this whole situation? Do you believe Jason Lloyd's takes are simply poor journalism driven by shock value? Or does it feel like something more problematic is happening beneath the surface? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the discussion real, respectful, and grounded in football. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to smash that like button so more Browns fans see it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss new content. Share this video with other Browns fans who care about fair coverage and honest football talk. Conversations like this only matter when they're seen. Until next time, keep it real, keep questioning narratives, and keep calling out bias when it shows up in sports media. Peace.